Hello, and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast, where we walk the cinema so we can talk the cinema. Today, we will be discussing the movie Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright.
This is the first suggestion we're going to be covering. It came from Jaden Ogle from the Rewatch podcast. So we're going to be linking him whenever possible. If you want to leave a suggestion, we have a list on Letterboxd, but you can also comment on the YouTube video, or you can follow us on Twitter and suggest this directly.
Yeah, and we'll try to get to suggestions as soon as we can. So to start off, what's the synopsis of Baby Driver?
Well, we follow Baby, who's a getaway driver for a crime lord in Atlanta, and he's also hearing impaired, so he's also listening to music all the time. And we follow him going through a lot of heists and a little bit of a romance.
Yes, and kind of the I think one of the best scenes in the movie is that opening scene. I know you like it a lot.
Oh, for sure.
And it's very much feels like an Edgar Wright movie in that sense, where it kind of starts off kind of high energy. The music is going along with the events happening in the story.
Yeah, it's very high energy. The music's really loud. Everything's going fast. It opens with a fast car chase, a lot of fast editing. But unlike other Edgar Wright movies, I feel like the rest of the movie doesn't really keep that type of action throughout.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that out of all the Edgar Wright movies that I've seen I think 4 of them at this point. It feels the least like an Edgar Wright movie. It doesn't quite have that charm that a lot of the other ones do.
I feel like it's missing something for me, and I think it's maybe the focus on the romance rather than the action. I feel like if this was a straight up heist movie, that would be a lot more for me to enjoy. The romance just doesn't click for me at any point. No character really seems to be doing anything for any reason besides the story moving forward.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the characters feel a little bit one-dimensional, which we're kind of like, saying all the bad things about the movie. I just want to iterate that I do like the movie. I do have a good time. I just think
there's a lot of things to like.
Yeah, I think there is a lot to like, but I feel like the characters don't really have any motivation to do what they're doing besides like, oh, that's just who they are.
Jamie Foxx is the best example of it. Is just a killer that loves to shoot people, but we get no reason for that besides, oh, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's crazy, so he kills a lot of people. Is not really a true motivation for a character. We just need the action because there's a lot of slow moments.
Yeah, I agree.
But when we do get the action, I think the action is worthy.
Yeah.
It's very stylish, and Edgar Wright sets out to do exactly what he wants to do. He's very talented in that way that he can picture something in his head and completely put it on the screen. Yeah. And if you like it or not, that's personal, but
yeah, I think how he did it was like it felt like this movie was a music video in a sense, because I think that the music choices that he made for the specific scenes was actually kind of perfect. Like nothing felt out of place in that regard.
The soundtrack was very synced to the action. It always fit what we were seeing.
Yeah.
I have nothing against the action scenes except maybe in the car chases I would prefer less shots inside of the car and maybe more shots following what the car is doing from the outside. but it went with the character emotions, which again I don't think they're really there.
Yeah, I think that they he tried to focus on the characters when like his characters didn't have a lot of depth. Because I don't think he was trying to make this a fast car movie, kind of like a Fast and the Furious, which is pretty much primarily all about the car scenes. I don't think
Hmm.
that was his intention. So I kind of understand why he didn't do a lot of the outside tracking of the cars.
Hmm.
But I feel like in doing that, or in not doing that, like the most interesting scenes just are the ones that have more of
Yeah.
the action or more of the
I think
uh,
the most interesting scene besides the opening would be the one where he's parkouring across the town on foot. So it has not really much to do with cars. He does get on the car at the end, but and then the ending scene has really good stunts, but we'll get to that when we get to the end.
yeah. I think one of the things that made me laugh the hardest, or at least I think is the funniest thing in the movie, was that scene after they had killed the police officers that were going to give them guns and stuff, and after they
Hmm.
got back from the diner, Kevin Spacey's character Doc is the mob boss, is just sitting in the dark waiting for them. So when he turns on the light, he just says bananas. And
Yes,
that's one of the funniest parts. But I think
it is.
at some point you mentioned to me after the movie that it's really lacking the comedy that a lot of Edgar Wright's movies have.
Yeah, it does have that joke with the Michael Myers masks where it confuses the guy from Friday the 13th with Austin Powers. And that is a little funny, but the movie itself is not a comedy.
Right.
It's the first time I feel like he's not trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can fault him for that or if it's like our expectations of an Edgar Wright film
Mm,
are different from what he was trying to do.
yeah, a lot of people love this movie above any of his other movies. So,
Yeah, I honestly can see why because I did really enjoy it while I was watching it, but once I like sat down and thought about the movie as a whole, I started kind of seeing where maybe it was a little bit too one-dimensional or
mm,
I don't want to go as far as to say lifeless, but maybe a little lifeless.
it does use certain editing that he used in Scott Pilgrim, for example, but it's more scarce and the movie itself is not as action packed, even though it's the more action movie of them all.
Hmm.
Flick is the least action packed, but maybe it's not fair comparing it to his other works, and we should be judging it as an individual movie.
Yeah, I think it's just really hard that once you get to a certain level of filmmaking where Edgar Wright is so noticeable in his style. Like you
Mhm.
kind of instantly know what movies are his. It gets kind of hard
Yes, he's
to
produced a lot of modern classics, and
yeah,
it's hard to not see a movie as an Edgar Wright movie.
exactly. I think a lot of directors kind of have the same problem. Like you can't help but compare Quentin Tarantino's newest film to all of his other ones, you know,
Mm.
that kind of thing.
But again,
So,
talk about problems. So I'll tell you what my biggest problem with the movie is. It's emotionally, there's nothing there for me. The romance doesn't work. The tragic backstory doesn't really work. It's not new in any type of way. What does work is Joe, which is his deaf, I think, adoptive
yeah, his
dad
foster father, yeah.
that he takes care of. And I think those are the sweetest scenes. They're also the most quiet scenes, which contradicts the rest of the movie that's very loud.
Yeah,
We
I
get a
think
lot of quiet scenes between the two hearing impaired characters in the movie.
yeah.
But even that character feels a little bit like it's being used to motivate baby's reasons for what he's doing.
Yeah, I do appreciate the moments of silence in this film because it is kind of like you're constantly hearing some type of music, I feel like any of the other scenes. So when he um, gets to the Joe scenes, I really appreciate that there was like sign language involved, and I thought it was really cool that they had a character. Um,
It was the only cutesy type of scene that worked because there was a lot of cutesy scenes, especially with the Deborah character, which you haven't even mentioned because she's so nothing. I know that people of the internet really, really love the actress, but the character just doesn't work. And it has nothing to do with the actress. I'm
no,
sure she's amazing, but
yeah, I
it
liked her a
doesn't work
lot,
here.
but yeah, the character of Deborah is a little flat, I would say. Like, there's
She's kind
no,
of being used. She's not really a character. She's more of something for Baby to, again, have his motivation for doing what he's doing
yeah,
more than she doing her own thing. She's not really doing anything on her own.
yeah, and I think one of the big things about this movie is like, um, there's no backstory to like anybody's motives. So
No.
you never really understand any character besides what's being shown to you. And I don't know if like that should be a fault of this movie or if I should be faulting this movie for that. But it's just something that I think about. You never find out why Baby got involved with Doc to begin with. So it's kind of
We
like,
just know that he has some type of depth to him.
yeah,
And then after that's paid off, he's scared that Doc will kill Joe, will go after Deborah, so he keeps doing the things he's doing.
yeah, which is all fine and dandy. But then I think if you look at anything, like even if you take what's face value, what the movie actually shows you, the ending to me doesn't make any sense. And we'll get to that in a minute, but um
Yeah, the ending, we could just start by saying the ending gets set up when John's Hamm character sees his girl killed by the cops, so he pretty much loses it. And that's the only real justified action in this, because anyone, if they see a loved one being killed, would, not act normal. They would behave in extremes. And so that feels like the only justified emotional reaction in the whole movie, really. So
yeah.
he starts chasing them and wants to kill everybody. So at the end, we see Spacey's character kind of having a face turn. I know you dislike that part, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, one of the things that I really didn't like about the movie, and I really liked it while I was watching it up until this point, is when Baby goes to Doc after escaping Buddy's wrath and the cops and stuff and asks for his help, and Doc says he doesn't want to help him. But then as soon as Deborah comes in and is like, we gotta go, like, we don't need his help, Doc decides to help him all of a sudden because he said that he was in love once, which doesn't make any sense to me because
No.
there's no there's no building up to that. There's because even if you take the movie at face value, where all the motives for what's happening happen in this movie, it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like Doc cares about Baby other than
Being a good driver.
yeah, being a good driver. So why on earth would he risk dying for him?
No, it doesn't make any sense. I think it's the biggest criticism that I saw online for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also the relationship itself doesn't make much sense. They act like they're deeply in love, but they've known each other for a couple days. They've kissed once or twice.
Hmm.
And their biggest thing in common is they enjoy one song together, which he keeps in one of his many iPods.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have as big of a issue with their relationship. I think it serves its purpose pretty much in the film. My whole thing, my whole big issue is just the final couple of minutes from the point that
Mm.
Doc dies to pretty much the end of the movie is kind of where I find the most fault.
Because that's where I could defend it. Because yes, it's silly why it happens, but it has the best choreographed action in all of it. I think that's the best action scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's like three good action scenes. The first one that starts the movie off, and then there's the parkour one where he runs off after killing Jamie Foxx. And then there's this last one where they're just ramming cars together, and it's very all choreographed. And I really like the revenge that Buddy uses on Baby. The sound design sounded really good when he shoots both bullets over his ears, so he loses his hearing, and we just hear the humming intensify. And it puts you in his shoes a little bit. You get a little confused by
Yeah.
everything else that's happening because the sound is so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that the sound design on that was very interesting and very very real, I guess. Like
I
you,
wouldn't know.
well, I wouldn't know either, but I just think it feels like it would be real. Like
It does.
you're experiencing what the character is experiencing. I do think that's good. I guess I when I think about movies, I think about the plot, which maybe that's a fault of my own, but just the whole ending part where they get stopped by the cops, getting out of or trying to get out of Georgia. They don't arrest her, even though she's the getaway driver,
Mhm.
essentially. And then they have like this whole trial scene, and they put people on the stand to do like witness character, or testify to it to the character of Baby.
Yes, they use the woman from the post office that he warns not to get into the post office, and they use the old lady whose car he stole but returned it back to her.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like that's a good enough reason for me to believe that somebody would testify for the defendant.
Yeah, if someone stole my car but gave me back my bag, I wouldn't be, oh, thanks.
Yeah, at least you
I'd
felt
still
bad
be
about
very
it.
upset that you took my car.
Yeah, which,
I guess they're trying to. Edgar Wright here is trying to show that Baby is not a true criminal
yeah,
in that sense, but he still is a criminal.
I mean, he's a criminal, and I feel like he did a good job, I think, showing that Baby didn't wasn't truly involved with this whole
Yeah,
crime thing to begin with. Like he didn't like doing the crime.
yes, he was just scared of.
Yeah. So I feel like the motivation is even or the relationship between him and Doc is even more confusing, I guess, in that sense, because I don't know. I just think that,
It's a fun movie, but analyzing it is maybe not the best idea if you're watching it.
yeah, exactly. But I did enjoy the movie for face value. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's
Um,
fun. I think the more times you watch it, the more problems you'll have with it. Maybe that's just me. People in the comments could tell me why I'm so wrong. I would love to hear it.
see, I did enjoy it. I do think that there are problems. But face value, I think it's good. It's a good time. Not my favorite Edgar Wright, but I'd have to think if it's my least favorite.
Okay, so what's your rating of it?
I gave it a 7 out of 10. I had originally given it an 8 out of 10, but upon further reflection, I just thought that the many flaws in its storytelling and motivation type thing was a little too much for me. So I gave it a 7, but a high 7.
To me, to me, it was a six all the way through. I guess I'm not really an action guy. I don't really like action movies too much. So yeah, the scenes that were good were very good, but the subplot just wasn't there for me. I didn't buy the romance at all. So yeah, that's our
That's our take.
thoughts on it. So don't forget to subscribe on the platform you're listening to. Like if that's an option. Go follow us on Twitter, Letterboxd, and leave your recommendation for something you'd like to hear us talk about next. If you would like to hear us talk more.
And we'll see you the next episode.